Hello students, today we will study chapter 6 Molecular Basis of Inheritance. In this chapter we will cover the DNA, search for genetic material, RNA word, replication, transcription, genetic code, translation, regulation of gene expression, Human Genome Project and DNA fingerprinting. In class 11th, you have already learned about nucleic acids as they are the polymers of nucleotides. There are two types of nucleic acids. Deoxyribonucleic acid, that is DNA, and ribonucleic acids, that is RNA. This DNA acts as a genetic material in most organisms. RNA also acts as a genetic material in some viruses. Mostly functions as a messenger. RNA has additional roles as well. It functions as adapter, structural, and in some cases as a catalytic molecule. All these functions of RNA will be told you in more details when we talk about protein synthesis. Right now, we will proceed to DNA. DNA is a long polymer of deoxyribonucleotides. Now, the length of the DNA is usually defined as number of nucleotides present in it. It means how many nucleotides are present. This also is characteristic of an organism. For example, a bacteriophage known as Cy174 has 5386 nucleotides. Bacteriophage lambda has 48,502 base pairs. Escherichia coli, a common bacteria, has 4.6 into 10 raised to power 6 base pairs. And haploid content of human DNA is 3.3 into 10 raised to power 9 base pairs. This is the haploid content, and you can imagine the diploid content. So this was about the length of the DNA. Next is about the structure of polynucleotide chain. To explain the polynucleotide chain, we start with one nucleotide. One nucleotide has three components. The components are nitrogen base, sugar, and phosphate. I explain you these with the help of the diagram. This is a polynucleotide chain. This is one polynucleotide chain, and this is the sugar molecule. It is attached with the nitrogen base, and this A is for adenine. It is attached here with the phosphate group. Up till here is one nucleotide. This is the second nucleotide with sugar, that is the deoxyribose sugar, nitrogen base, and phosphate. Likewise, this is another nucleotide, another nucleotide. They make a polynucleotide chain. In this chain, this is the phosphate end, 5' end with the phosphate group, and this is the 3' end with hydroxyl group. Every chain has 5' end and 3' end. And now, how these molecules are linked. The nitrogen base, A is for adenine. Nitrogen base is linked to the sugar with the help of glycosidic bond, and it is linked with the phosphate with the help of the ester bond. One phosphate is linked to the next nucleotide, means the phosphate is common for the next two nucleotides are linked with a common. Again, two will be linked with a common phosphate. So the bond here is ester bond and we call it diester bond. Here is the diester bond and here is the glycosidic bond. Now regarding the nitrogen bases, they are of two types, purines and pyrimidines. Adenine and guanine are the purines. Cytosine and thymine are the pyrimidines. Actually, cytosine and thymine are present in DNA and the uracil is exclusively present in RNA. So, in RNA we will have cytosine and uracil and in DNA we will have cytosine and thymine. Now, DNA as an acidic substance present in the nucleus was first identified by Friedrich Miescher in 1869. He named it as nuclein. However, due to technical limitation in isolating such a long polymer intact, the elucidation of the structure of DNA remained elusive for a very long period of time. It means the structure of DNA could not be detected for a long period of time. It was only in 1953 that James Watson and Francis Crick, based on the X-ray diffraction data produced by Maurice Wilkins and Rosalind Franklin, proposed a very simple but famous double helix model for the structure of DNA. It means Watson and Crick proposed the double helix. How did they make it? They got the data of X-ray diffraction studies. Who made the X-ray diffraction studies? They were Maurice Wilkins and Rosalind Franklin. And when did it happen? It happened in 1953. One of the hallmark of their proposition was base pairing between the two strands of polynucleotide chains. However, this proposition was also based on the observation of Erwin Chargaff that for a double-stranded DNA, the ratios between adenine and thymine and guanine and cytosine are constant and equals 1. It was actually Chargaff who gave the ratios between the nitrogen bases. Actually, one purine pairs with one pyrimidine and adenine will always pair with thymine and guanine will always pair with cytosine. The base pairing confers a very unique property to the polynucleotide chain. They are said to be complementary to each other and therefore if the sequence of the bases in one strand is known, then the sequence in the other strand can be predicted. Also, if each strand forms a DNA, acts as a template for synthesis of new strand, the two double-stranded DNA thus produced would be identical to the parental DNA molecule. This will be more clear when we study replication. Because of this, genetic implications of the structure of DNA became very clear. Now, after these discoveries, we will study the salient features. The salient features of the double helix structure of DNA are as follows. First, it is made up of two polynucleotide chains, whereas the backbone is constituted by sugar phosphate and bases project inside. We have seen it in the diagram. The two chains have anti-parallel polarity. It means if one chain has the polarity of 5-3', The other has 3 dash 5 dash, means 5 dash end of one chain will face the 3 dash end of the other, and 3 dash end of this chain will face the 5 dash end of the other. Third point, the bases in the two strands are paired through hydrogen bonds. Adenine forms two hydrogen bonds with thymine from the opposite end and vice versa. Similarly, guanine is bonded with cytosine with 3 hydrogen bonds. It means there are always 2 weak hydrogen bonds between adenine and thymine and 3 weak hydrogen bonds between guanine and cytosine. As a result, always a purine comes opposite to the pyrimidine. This generates approximately uniform distance between the two strands of the helix. The two chains are coiled in a right-handed fashion. The pitch of the helix is 3.4 nanometer. 1 nanometer is 1 billionth of a meter. This is 10 raised to power minus 9 meter, and there are roughly 10 base pairs in each turn. Consequently, the distance between the base pairs in a helix is approximately equal to 0.34 nanometer. Means this is the pitch which has 3.4 angstrom area, and there are 10 base pairs. Distance between each will be divided by 10. Answer is 0.34 nanometer between this and this. 0.34 between this and this means adjacent bases, because there are 10 bases here in this much distance, and this much distance is 3.4, and distance between two nucleotides will be 0.34. The plane of the base pair stacks over the other in a double helix. This, in addition to hydrogen bonds, confers stability of the helical structure. Here is a very important question. What provides stability to the DNA helix? And the answer is over here. We will also cover again this structure of DNA, where the two strands, this and this, are complementary. How these nitrogen bases are pairing in such a fashion that one purine always pairs with one pyrimidine, and also showing hydrogen bonds which are double between A and T, means adenine and thymine, same adenine and thymine, and triple between cytosine and guanine, same here. And these are the two polynucleotide chains, and also showing anti-parallel nature, 5 dash end of this facing 3 dash end of the other, 3 dash end of this facing 5 dash end of the other chain. The proposition of a double helix structure for DNA and its simplicity in explaining the genetic implications became revolutionary. This discovery became revolutionary. Very soon, Francis Crick proposed the central dogma in molecular biology, which states that the genetic information flows from DNA to RNA to protein. This central dogma, here it is explained here: DNA, transcription, messenger RNA, translation, protein. Means DNA transcribes messenger RNA, and this translates the protein. And this is the central dogma of the protein synthesis. Here is a separate case. In some viruses, the flow of information is in reverse direction, that is, from RNA to DNA. This belongs to reverse transcription category. We will study this later. Next topic is packaging of DNA helix. We have studied the DNA helix. Now how it is packed in the nucleus. Taken the distance between two consecutive base pairs as 0.34 nanometer, or this is how it is written in meters. If the length of DNA double helix in a typical mammalian cell is calculated, how will we calculate? By multiplying the total number of base pairs with the distance between two consecutive base pairs. This is the total number of base pairs. 6.6 into 10 raised to power 9 base pairs into 0.34 into 10 raised to power minus 9 meter. Means this is the distance between the two and this is the number of base pairs. When we multiply, the result is 2.2 meters. A length that is far greater than the dimension of a typical nucleus, which is approximately 10 raised to power minus 6 meter. Now the question is, how is such a long polymer packed in a cell? The answer is, as we study forward, in prokaryotes, what happens? Such as E. coli, though they do not have a defined nucleus, the DNA is not scattered throughout the cell. DNA, being negatively charged, is held with some proteins that are positively charged in the region termed as nucleoid. This is a case of the prokaryotes when a negatively charged DNA is associated with the positively charged proteins, but no name is given to these proteins. These are just positively charged proteins and they are associated, and for this association the term is nucleoid. The DNA in nucleoid is organized in large loops held by proteins. Next, in eukaryotes, this organization is much more complex. There is a set of positively charged basic proteins called histones. Here the proteins will be called histones, which are positively charged. A protein acquires charge depending upon the abundance of amino acid residues with charged side chains. Histones are rich in basic amino acid residues, lysines and arginines. Means how histones are positively charged? There are basic amino acids, mainly lysines and arginines. Both the amino acid residues carry positive charges in their side chains. Histones are organized to form a unit of 8 molecules called a histone octamer. It means there are actually 8 molecules, 8 units to make histone octamer, and that will make one unit histone octamer. 8 molecules making one histone octamer. The negatively charged DNA is wrapped around the positively charged histone octamer to form a structure called nucleosome. This is the answer. DNA is negatively charged. It is wrapped around the positively charged histone octamer to form a nucleosome. Let us see the diagram. This is the diagram of the nucleosome. This is DNA coiled around the histones. This is the histone octamer, and this structure is called nucleosome. It looks like a bead. A typical nucleosome contains 200 base pairs of DNA helix. Nucleosomes constitute the repeating unit of a structure in nucleus called chromatin. So chromatin is made up of series of nucleosomes, thread-like strained colored bodies seen in the nucleus. They are deeply strained, they get color. Nucleosomes in chromatin are seen as beads on string. Structure when viewed under electron microscope. It means when we view under the electron microscope, it appears as if there are beads on the string, and the beads are actually the nucleosome. And we have studied nucleosome which is negatively charged DNA wrapped around the positively charged protein, and which was an octamer of 8 molecules. This is how DNA is packed. The beads on the string structure in the chromatin is packed to form chromatin fibers that are further coiled and condensed at metaphase stage of cell division to form chromosome. Here it is very important how chromosome is formed. It is formed from that DNA only. The beads on the string structure in the chromatin is packed to form chromatin fibers that are further coiled and condensed at metaphase of cell division to form chromosomes. The packaging of the chromatin at higher levels also required additional set of protein. Means apart from the histone, there is additional set of protein that collectively are referred to as non-histone chromosomal proteins, NHC. This is non-histone. The earlier was histone. Histone was the main, and this is additional protein. In a typical nucleus, some regions of chromatin are loosely packed. We have studied that chromatin part, beads on the string. Here some regions are loosely packed and stain light, and they are referred to as euchromatin. The chromatin that is more densely packed and stains dark are called as heterochromatin. So there are two types, euchromatin and heterochromatin. One is loose, one is densely packed. Euchromatin is said to be transcriptionally active chromatin, whereas heterochromatin is inactive. Means for transcription, euchromatin works and this does not work. We have already studied central dogma today. In the central dogma, DNA transcribes messenger RNA, the word transcription. So, the one which is involved in protein synthesis is euchromatin. Thank you.